darkest corner of your mind. I am the cruelty hidden in your heart. I am savagery. I am rage. I am hate. Every murder you imagine. Every bleeding fantasy. Every vengeance. Every repressed urge. Every unrealized perversion. I am all of these. Every intelligent creature turns its tools to murder eventually. I am there, in the sweat and the blood, and the era of an action that once done cannot be undone. I am hunger. The energy released by a life extinguishes my food. Strife the wine with which I drink it down. The geography of dreams deferred and love underplayed near the sublime hills and valleys of my brainwaves. I am the dense, unfathomable insanity of a possessed mind. Entropy, decay, death are things of the natural order. Petty corporate fascist smiles of my will. I am beyond such things. I am no mere force of nature, no phenomenon to be studied, codified, and circumvented by the inventiveness of lesser beings. I am the collapse of natural order. A formless, infinite nothing petty corporal minds cannot imagine. Total annihilation. Peace in an endless emptiness, the hardened totality which I alone encompass. I am Unicron. I live again.
The Dark God, the Chaos Bringer, the embodiment of evil. But those are just names. Unicron is far more than just a planet devourer. He consumes all things, and that there is nothing more that he desires than the end of all existence, in which he will be able to sleep peacefully forevermore. But how did this all come about? How did Unicron come to basically be Satan to the Transformers? Well, we gotta start at the beginning with his first appearance in Transformers, the movie. Unicron is the main antagonist of the movie. He's responsible for many of the film's events. He devours a planet, turns Megatron into Galvatron. But who or what even is Unicron? Well, as far as the movie is concerned, there's no answer for that. As the Transformers wiki states, he simply exists, is very dangerous, and is afraid of the Matrix. All for no discernible reason. Now, to be entirely fair, he did have a backstory in earlier drafts, but none of them made it into the finished film. Season 3 did give him a backstory where he was created by a scientist named Primacron. It's pretty lackluster, and nothing about it explains why he was vulnerable to the Matrix. At the time, there were two major Transformers continuities, the cartoon by Sunbow and the comic book by Marvel. For the most part, the US Marvel comic chose to ignore the events of the movie, while Simon Furman, who was writing the comic in the United Kingdom, took inspiration from the movie's events. As he himself stated, Unicron was simply this threat. What connection does he have to the Transformers? None, really. So the thought came about, what if we effectively make him Satan? And he essentially created Primus, who would serve as the yin to Unicron's yang. Furman would have Unicron tell this story himself in the UK story, The Legacy of Unicron. At the dawn of time, Unicron battled his arch-enemy Primus. Unicron sought to end life, Primus to protect it. For eons the two battled, their blows shaking the very foundation of the universe. Unicron was the superior warrior. Primus managed to show guile, and trapped both of them inside metallic asteroids. Eventually, Unicron would learn to siphon his prison into the planet that could transform into a giant robot. Primus would adapt this idea, but would make his asteroid into the planet Cybertron, and create the Transformer race to fight in his stead, gifting them the matrix of leadership, which, if opened, could destroy Unicron. Furman would bring this backstory over to the US comic book when he started writing it. The Keeper who guarded Primus' sleeping head would tell of a slightly different account. Here, Primus and Unicron were the last of their pantheon of gods, and that Primus must defeat Unicron to take his place in the omniversal matrix. Whatever that is. The third time the story would be told would be by Primus himself. Here, Unicron had destroyed the previous universe, but tiny fragments that he missed collided, and gave birth to the new universe. When Unicron awoke, he did not question it. He merely began to destroy it all again. The sentient core of the universe would birth Primus to combat Unicron. All these accounts vary in nature, but as they were all written by Simon Furman and given by a different character, this seems intentional. So we have two origins for Unicron at this point. One, built by some monkey thing, or two, primordial force from the dawn of time. Small wonder why Hasbro pretty much went with the second option going forward. As time went on, Unicron and Primus' origins would evolve. The Unicron trilogy would return Unicron to a state of prominence, and here he was basically an Eldritch abomination.
Unicron will destroy space.
For this show, and only this show, Unicron powers himself on hate, and thus the Autobot-Decepticon conflict feeds him.
As long as hatred exists, I shall remain impervious to attack.
Transformers Energon would bring in Primus into the animated shows, but well, the less we talk about that show, the better. But expansive material would give Primus and Unicron a new origin. At the beginning of time, there was only the one who created Unicron and then subdivided him to create Primus, sending both to explore the new fledgling universe. However, it became apparent to Primus that Unicron was a corrupt being, and the two would battle. Their battles would sometimes cause the end of the universe. But there came a new detail. In his stead, Primus would create the 13 original Transformers to fight for him. Who these Transformers were varies depending on continuity or not at all, but one member is particularly noteworthy. The one known as the Fallen, who at the climactic battle would betray Primus for Unicron, but would be sealed in a black hole with Unicron. Now here's where things get a little complicated. Primus and Unicron were established to be multiversal singularities, meaning that in the vast multiverse of the Transformers, there was only one Primus and Unicron. Primus existed in all realities simultaneously, while Unicron could only exist in one at a time. This is a bit of a stretch, as Primus clearly wasn't a thing in the original Generation 1 cartoon, as the show had ended before the origin would be introduced in the comic book. One thing to bear in mind, at the time there were only two major continuity families, Generation 1, which includes Beast Wars by the way, and the Unicron trilogy, so I guess it wasn't too much of a stretch to say that Primus and Unicron existed everywhere, the whole Primacron origin notwithstanding. Of course, after the Unicron trilogy ended, Transformers branched off into various new continuities, the live-action films, the animated continuity, and the aligned continuity. Unicron and Primus were largely absent from the live-action films at the time, as general fatigue had set in amongst the fandom around stories revolving around them. The animated continuity didn't feature either. In fact, the late Derek J. White has stated that Primus doesn't exist in the animated universe because of his strange dislike of Primus. The aligned continuity, which sought to combine all the best aspects of Transformers lore, Primus and Unicron's origin was largely kept intact, but Unicron was made into the Earth's core rather than being his own planet. So yeah, now the whole multiversal singularity thing was getting hard to believe. So they did away with multiversal singularities in a huge retcon, so now every universe could have Primus and Unicron in their own way or not at all, which is sort of what the IDW comics did. However, one thing that I don't think can be overstated, making Unicron into a dark god that sought the end of existence simply because he was offended at the idea that anything other than him could exist, it really elevated the character. You see, Unicron was simply a planet eater in the original film, but now he was this omniversal threat. And Unicron's end goal is not conquest, nor power. He simply wants nothing but a blank void to sleep in peacefully. Much more grandiose in scale than being built by some weird monkey thing, isn't it? Effectively, by making Unicron into the Transformers version of Satan, Simon Furman helped shape Transformers as not just a toy line to be sold, but as a mythology in its own right. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you want updates, join my Discord, and check out my Patreon, which are provided in the description below. See you next time.